Hello,
Welcome
welcome,
to Lost
Lost
Pinata.
Pinata.
Oh wait, I forgot what our saying is, or is that something only for the end?
We'll save it for the end.
Okay.
Ever. Uh, hey, everybody, I'm your co-host Dave, and
And
this
I'm
is
your co-host Terrance,
yeah,
and we are
and we're
here
here to talk about.
today.
Well,
Pinatas that are
actually our
lost.
topic today is kind of the
Our
topic of the
topic
show,
is
right? Isn't
yep,
that your concept of the show was like the talk about the creative lifestyle?
yes.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about elements of a creative lifestyle, like things that go into doing what you want to do. I guess to building that lifestyle that you want.
So, all right. So, I guess a lot of this kind of depends on like exactly what do you want? Do you want to be like a full-time creative person, a part-time creative person? Do you just want to have a hobby on the side? I mean, that makes a big difference there and what your creative lifestyle is going to be, right?
Well, I think some of this came out of our conversation last week about what are your goals? What's your idea of success?
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, if you're a hobbyist, then it's you've got a low level of commitment really that you need to. You've got a lot less that you need to worry about. I mean, I wouldn't say
You
commitment.
may have a high level of commitment, but it's
It's not
very
commitment.
limited. It's a limited commitment.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I mean, you may be super committed to
right.
that
Yeah,
hour a day or something like that, but or 15 minutes a day or whatever, and you may really really care passionately
yeah.
about doing that
That's what I was
those
gonna say.
watercolors
Commitment's
twice a
right.
month or something, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a huge time suck.
It's not determining how you know. Whereas if
Well,
you
there's the professional, yeah, professional artists. So that's where we're getting more like, yeah, is your creative lifestyle. Are we talking about your profession, or does it creep into your profession? Does it
so
influence?
I would put this somewhere in the middle. Things that you need to be in the middle there. How's that? Let's figure out what you need to be in the middle there. Because that's I don't know. If you're a full blown professional, well, let's talk about being a professional. Okay,
No,
so
let's talk about being professional.
all right. So what are the things you need to be? We're see now. I'm like, do we just need to define? Like, we need multiple definitions, don't we?
Well, let's talk about the let's do that. Let's define the different types of creative lifestyles. But I mean, let's talk about the hobbyist first, right?
Okay.
So, I mean, I think the hobbyist. I mean, the I think probably the most important thing there is just doing the activity. That's that you're doing the activity and that you're enjoying yourself. If it's something you really care about, and then there's to another degree probably getting some notoriety, a limited amount of notoriety, perhaps maybe. I think if you want to get like widespread notoriety, you might succeed, mind you. Don't get me wrong. If you're just spending, if you're doing watercolors twice a month or something, and then you know submit your work to a show or something, it could become famous, but probably not. Most people, who want to get notoriety, they have to spend a lot of work promoting their self
Right.
or promoting their work and getting it
And
out
so
there so people can see it.
so that's kind of out of the realm of just a hobbyist, right?
Exactly. So this is well,
Let's start. So, well, just starting with a hobbyist, then what you need is time, right? You need time. You
just
need
enough time to set aside. You need to set aside a little.
time. You need whatever your materials are. Like if you're a musician or you're an artist or a writer, you need those basics. But time is your biggest thing that you're going to be looking for is to do your art,
Now,
whatever it
now,
is.
one thing that if you're just a hobbyist, this is the kind of the irony.
Mhm.
If you're a hobbyist, you have money.
That's true.
You have money to spend on your hobby. It's interesting to me that yeah, looking at it, yeah, because like I'm a right now I guess I'm a full time creative person, and I know some like I have two guitars right now. I have a
Mhm.
baritone guitar and a regular guitar, and
Mhm.
that's it. That's all I have. Whereas I've got friends who are fully employed and they have got like 12 different guitars. They've got
Right.
hanging on their wall. They collect you know rare amp. You get this echo here. It sounds like. Um, oh,
Do you
that's the
hear
dog.
weird sounds? Like,
We have a guest with us today.
my dog is in his crate back here because we have a guest in the house, and if I don't put him in here with me, he will make a lot of noise that will make this all impossible for us to have a conversation.
Yeah.
So he'll just be barking the whole time.
So that's okay.
Hopefully,
It's good to have company. We'll have to. Well, we will interview the dog at one point during the show. But yeah, it's like if you're a hobbyist, you've got advantages here. You've got money. You're able to because you've got presumably a full-time job
right.
but you've also got money for seminars. You've got money for classes. You've got
Mm,
money for going to retreats.
yeah.
There's a songwriting retreat that I try to go to every year, but I am priced out at this point. It is too expensive for me to go for that week. But if you're gainfully employed, there's a lot of advantages there.
Yeah.
You can really do that.
I mean, one of the things is like I have less time than I have money to spend on my aspirations, and so I've got multiple ukuleles. I've got a drum set. I've got the amp that I want. I've got whatever pedals I search, and I could get more. But I've stopped there. But like yeah, whenever my laptop, like I just bought another laptop and I've got like a stack of them because I don't have the time to do the thing, but I do have a job that then I don't have to worry about, so that I can always set up and create a space for myself to work in when I do get that chance. You know,
So yeah, so there's kind of so
and
that's
I
kind
know
of a trade-off there. If you're a hobbyist, you've got less time, but a lot more money,
yeah,
most likely. Though you could theoretically be a hobbyist and not have very much money.
yeah, you could also be broke hobbyist.
That's always that's always a possibility.
But in general, you use a lot more of your time devoted to things that are not your hobby or would be your job, right?
Yeah.
And that's just
So, but what you've got is you've got a limited amount of time, but oftentimes it's more quality. I mean, you can afford instruction, right? You can afford classes, and a community can be built in certain ways that that money can buy. There are things that money can buy, and so like if you are able to pay for like a songwriters retreat or an art camp or something like that, you can maybe get more intensive, focus on that in the short term. Um, and it builds community, and it builds you get connections with the instructors and whatnot, so you can get a lot of that stuff in a concentrated period.
well, what you get though very often. I mean that in my instance, like yeah, I can attend things, like I can go to things, but I can never be as involved as say you when you're building a community or
Uh-huh.
you're constantly in the community. It's like no, I can attend a meeting, but I'm not going to be the head of anything. I'm not going to be and I'm not going to guarantee that I'll be there every time. I'm not going to guarantee that I'll be there month to month. So
Well, I know people that are I know folks that they take classes, and they're they're meeting a lot of musicians that are in the same situation as them. They're kind of hobbyists who have limited time, but a certain amount of money to do it, and they have like instruments. They all have albums too. That's what gets me is like I've been like
wow.
albums are not they're not cheap putting those together. And so you get these like really polished albums from people that are that are not is fully committed to the thing, and but they don't necessarily perform a lot of shows. If you're a full-time musician, then you're out there doing shows. You're also going to other people's shows a lot. You're making those connections. You're trying to you go to open mics. You're trying to meet other people so you can be like openers for them, or maybe you can get them to be openers for you. You might find ways to collaborate. It's a bit more of a hustle. You got to raise money. You got to do a lot more when it comes to promotion and raising money. That's kind of a contrast. So we're actually kind of setting contrasts here between the so-called hobbyist and the pro artist. Though hobbyists do become pro artists, right?
Right. Yes. Yes.
And
But
oftentimes it's
yeah, being a
more.
hobbyist is not, not trying to say that that's, a limiter,
Yeah.
you know,
And
that's
so
just
if you're interested, I mean, it's
work at.
actually there's a lot to be said for being a hobbyist with, who does it for a limited amount of time, but you have the money and you spend and you get all that, you get that infrastructure built,
Right.
uh, and then going off to being a more full time artist. Because um, if you've got all the equipment already, you don't have to worry about that, or you could have a savings account that you have set aside so that you can, once you decide to go full time, you can rely on that while you're trying to set, uh, put your stamp on the scene.
Yeah.
So anyway, but the thing is, you don't have to do that as a hobbyist. You don't have to think in terms of becoming a pro
Right.
or
Yeah.
even making it all of your life.
You can stay a hobbyist as long as you want. I mean, I'm living proof.
Well, except that you're a professional TV producer.
Well, but that's different. That's a whole other side. That I'm
One of your
professional
things,
there. I'm
you're
professional there, but but I'm an amateur everywhere else. So
that's right. That's right. Um, but I think when you're talking about just the pure hobbyist, somebody who doesn't have any real ambitions about being a professional,
yeah,
um, yeah, it's just about finding that time, the tools, and you got to ask, what are you looking to get out of it? So some people are really they just find like painting to be meditative,
hmm
or working on any art form is just a meditative act. It
right,
doesn't have to go beyond that. You don't even need to show your stuff to other people.
yeah, yeah. No,
And
that's yeah. I mean, and that's the difference. I feel really if well, I guess if you're a professional artist, you're still going to have to struggle with time if you've got like family and other
yeah,
obligations. You
mhm,
know, So, I mean, that may not change regardless. I just think of somebody who works a full time job, then they only get to do their creative outlet when they're not working the 40 hours a week, when they're not, and so their big struggle, I feel, or my big struggle is always time. It's
yeah.
always finding that time and working that in at some point during my day. And, you know, I think that's a topic we will touch on one day.
Right, that's right.
How you
Um,
do that. But yeah, you're right. Like I have an opportunity for instruction, but at the same time, I've got to decide, am I going to spend my time taking a class or am I going
learning
to
and
spend that
doing.
time, writing, because I can't do both.
Well, but keep in mind, I'm not sure about writing classes, but a lot of like painting, like if you
Mhm.
take a class on a lot of like visual
Right.
art or
Yeah.
what,
You're making the art.
you're actually doing the art in the class. And um I've worked at activity centers where they have these ongoing classes,
hmm
but it's the same people every month, or every session.
hmm
They're just signing up over maybe a few new people trickle
hmm
in, but it's always just kind of the same people, and they've learned all the lessons basically. It's really just they're just it's just time to it's just
It's
time that they've set aside
it's time they've set aside to do the work.
to do the work. Yeah.
They're just doing it, and that's actually a really good way to go about it because you
Yeah.
get to a place that's specific for what you want to do. I mean, I went to art school, and so and that was great. I went to art school after I got my bachelor's, and I went back to school, and so I took art classes, and it was fantastic, just to be able to go to a space that's made for you to make art in, and you just go there to make art, and and you're obligated to go there, every week to make art. That was beautiful.
Well,
So,
we already had an episode where we talked about motivation.
right.
But part of motivation is commitment.
hmm
And I think a lot of people, they want to do art, and so they ask us like, well, how do I get motivated? But that's the advantage of if you pay for a class, whether you're actually learning something or not, maybe it's just an excuse to do stuff. But that's the point.
hmm
It's an excuse to do something.
Yeah.
You're committing with your money to doing it. And when you have a busy life and lots of responsibilities, if you're putting that money down, then that's like a real commitment.
Yeah,
You're basically saying, well, I spent the money, I got to go do it. You
right,
know.
right. I mean, it's setting clear parameters as to when you're going to work. I mean, and very often, I'll hear, in writing forums, you've got to treat it like a job. This is for aspiring writers. Treat it like a job. Set your start time and your end time, and you work from this point to that point. Because if you were going to your job and like, oh, I'm just not inspired today, they would be like, you better get inspired. We're paying you. And that's a lot of the mentality that a lot of authors have. It's like you really just have to, you go do it. What was it? There's a podcast, I think she named it, Mer Lafferty. I
It's a
think
competitive podcast. What are you doing? You're selling the competition?
sorry, but I used to listen to her podcast all the time, and it was Ditch Diggers. I want to say that was the name of it. I'd have to look again because I haven't listened in a while, but it was Ditch Diggers, which was the whole concept of it was that, yeah, you're digging that ditch. If you're a ditch digger, you just go, you do the work. You don't get inspired to do the work. You don't need a muse to do the work. You just dig the ditch. You never hear a ditch digger complaining about, digging block or, or they just have to do
Well,
it.
well,
So,
but I think that the thing is, this is oftentimes if you just do the work, the inspiration follows.
mhm.
So
Yeah, I've always written myself
you
out of
gotta.
writer's block.
It's one of those ironies is that if you just sort of forget about inspiration as what you're searching for,
Mhm.
it'll just come.
Yeah,
Um, but let's zero in on some of the other things.
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Cutting off topic there, but
Oh no, no. But I wanted to zero in on some of the other things we touched on, which is tools,
tools.
instruction, which is training.
Hmm.
Um, let's talk about those because those are definitely part of the creative lifestyle. Being able to have the tools. Not every art. I mean, some art forms you can do just with your body. If you're a
Right.
dancer,
But
well, I guess a
you
dancer
still,
you need to have a
you still want instruction,
well,
understanding
but
the
sure, yeah.
yeah.
Well, but just from a tool standpoint, though, all you really need is a floor. You don't even really need, you need a something to stand on that you're not going to trip over.
Well,
You know,
depending on your dance too,
Well,
everybody
true.
dancer
If you're
you
doing
need the
like
right shoes.
trapeze dancing or what do you call it, the silks, dancing on the silks.
Yeah,
Um,
aerialist or what have you.
but I mean, there are certain art forms where you don't have to. The point is, there are certain art forms where you don't need anything. You can
Right.
sing. You can sing a cappella. If you want to do Gregorian chants, you really don't need anything else. But then you get to simple things like drumming. You would need. I mean, you can do rhythm. You can do rhythm.
Yeah.
Any number of ways. You can drum on your belly.
Mhm.
But the tools are important depending on the kind of art form that you want to do,
Right.
and some are more expensive than others.
And that's very true. And it makes a difference in some, and it doesn't in all. Though, like
So,
I am sure that it makes it easier to do some art with really great watercolors. But I think you can get watercolors that are pretty mid and make just as good of art. So, but maybe it doesn't stay as well. Maybe it doesn't last as long.
yeah, yeah.
That sort of thing.
Though I don't know. For my own motto is that you just do the best with what you have available, and that's good enough.
Right.
And you can make great art at any level. I look at you look at these days we've got so much technology available to us that's really cheap.
Yeah.
I've got like a MacBook laptop, right?
Yeah.
And it comes with GarageBand. It also comes with iMovie. And
Hmm.
these are, but let's just talk about GarageBand. GarageBand, which is it's a recording and mixing software for music or audio. I guess it doesn't have to just be music.
Yeah.
It is 100 times better than the analog 4-track recorder that I had back in the year 2000.
Hmm.
I mean, it is so much better.
Really? So.
Oh God! Oh, it is so much better. It is so much easier to work with. Yeah,
I'm sure it's easier.
no, but it's better, man. It's better. I mean, this was a top of the line consumer model that I had back in 2000. It was
Mhm.
had a cassette tape, a standard cassette tape you could stick in there, but
Mm-hmm.
it used it and a cassette tape, has two sides to it and two channels on each side.
Mm-hmm.
But if you play it it was set up to do it so you had four, you
Yeah,
know,
right.
four tracks, right? And it had four tracks, with the mixing, well, the lines you could mix each one. Then it had like another one for if you wanted to use it as a mixing board for a show or something like that. And it was nice. I was super psyched about it,
Mm-hmm.
but and that was expensive at the time. I put money into that. But GarageBand, I mean, you do have to buy the Apple computer to begin with, which is
But
kind of more expensive. But I believe there's actually a uh, free version of GarageBand for PCs now too.
yeah, but what's there's
Not
that other thing, audio. What is it?
Yeah, but the point is there's free software. You're right. There's what's it called?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think I have it
there's
here.
there's free software for mixing. But the point is that it's all better than a really expensive top of the line model was,
Well, yeah,
uh,
no,
25 years ago.
yeah, the technology has changed to a point that anybody can do. Like like I could make Lord of the Rings in my like here on this computer.
Yeah.
But it would take me a little bit more time, but because it would just be one person can literally make that level, that quality of video and graphics, given
Yeah. I mean,
consumer grade products. And AI is going to just make that even better. Like we've been messing around with some of the new things that are in Adobe right now with the with Premiere, and like yeah, we get stuff and the audio is terrible, and like now they've got this thing you just push a button and it's clear. It's like out of a studio, and it's amazing, and it's wow. I mean, it's changing so fast, and it's going to just keep getting better and easier.
well,
And
let's just I guess we probably shouldn't spend too much time on this, but the point is because we're actually kind of brainstorming topics for
so
later shows. But the point is that the tools, that is a major element to being an artist and being creative. But it all depends on your chosen form of art. So you may have, maybe it's paintbrushes, maybe it's clay, but there is that involved, and the cost varies. But costs, for a lot of art forms are becoming less cost prohibitive. So let's talk about training. Let's talk about learning.
So, depending, I mean, like you said, you can always be self-taught and
Yeah.
in anything.
Absolutely.
But,
There's a
professional
library.
training,
Libraries are available.
yeah. But
And the
then,
internet.
getting professional training, getting professional assistance makes that journey a little faster and smoother, right? You don't have to, build a wheel, you can actually just benefit from other people's experience, but you can do that, just reading books.
Mm-hmm.
You can watch YouTube videos. I mean, you can watch podcasts. Hey, but yeah, you learn from everywhere that you can. But like yeah, paying and going to school for it, I think just gives you that leg up. And I mean, it doesn't have to be whatever Juilliard or Brown or whatever. It can be your community college. It can be adult classes. It can be
Continuing education. Yeah.
yeah. It can be I don't know. There are a lot of in Virginia, like over in Alexandria, we've got like the Torpedo Factory, and they have it's a gallery that does art, and they've got like the art league that has art classes, and it's just I don't know how common that is everywhere, but it's just a art space that you can go and you take art classes.
They're
So
also, it's going to vary from community to community, but check just check the local listings for this stuff. There are free art groups that you can be part of, and learn from other folks there. Sorry, I'm actually skipping. I was thinking the next topic should be community, but there's an overlap between.
no, but that's what I was going to say. Yeah, because there are also online resources everywhere for everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, like when I say watching a video on YouTube, like yeah, there's a lot there that you can watch. Everybody's got a video on anything that you're thinking about doing.
So there's really no excuse to
Right.
you can't say that it's too much to learn, you know. I mean, I guess if you only learn when you're learning from an instructor, and some people genuinely need another person involved, but even then, it wouldn't be that hard to find an
Yeah.
art buddy that would probably be willing to sit down with you and work on that
Right.
stuff.
But yeah, but so yeah, you've got professional instruction, which can cost or can be relatively inexpensive.
Yeah,
But then there's all the free things, and I think sometimes it might be a question of what's the quality of it, of the education in a way, But that doesn't necessarily mean that because it's free it isn't quality,
yeah,
either. It's
yeah,
like,
absolutely. No, I think
and I say this as
the
a video professional who, for my associates, had to take video classes with people that I felt like I was I knew more. So
yeah. I
yeah,
mean, this is a professional is really just somebody
who's been paid for
they've got their act together on how to be a business person. I mean, it's not, but I mean, there's, I think the art community in general
it.
is not, most people are not focused on the business side of things. So
Hmm.
you can find a lot of that, but at the same time, it's nice to support people. So if you've
Yeah.
got the money, if you're a hobbyist and you have the money, you want to support the artists out there, because those people that are charging for instruction,
Hmm.
they're trying to make a living at it. And so it's worthwhile going and paying for it.
Yes.
It's for schmoes like me who don't make a lot of money, that have to kind of scrimp and save and try to find freebies where they can. But you've got
But
a full time job and you've got a little bit of discretionary funds, then please pay the artists out there that are trying to instruct you.
all right. So I guess I can release the Kraken here.
Are you recording?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that wasn't going to work out.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Let me let the dog out.
Oh, now we know who let the dog
I'm
out.
wondering who did
Wow,
it.
I feel old now. You know what? I feel really old now. I felt old when that song came out, for God's sake. So let's talk about the role of pets in art. Pets can be inspirational to people. They actually, genuinely, this is actually true. Your pet may be your muse. There it is. All right. Um, well, let's talk about community. I think that's a big thing there.
Community. So, well, I was going to say before we got off of the
Training, yeah.
training,
Yeah.
'cause I had one last thought because the one benefit, like if you do have discretionary funds and you are a hobbyist at that point where and you want to be a professional, making that leap and trying to do it and using your time wisely, it's easier to go to somebody who's a professional who knows, who can give you that leg up, and that's why you would go to take some classes too. So
Well, yeah. Well, this
you
is
get that.
this is where it crosses over into community, because
Right.
a lot of times the way that you build your community is through those classes, through that instruction.
Right.
I know a lot of people that have
Right.
mentors, professionally, that they hire,
Right.
and these are people that are more experienced in whatever art form they're in. And if you're looking to be a professional, then they're oftentimes excellent uh, resources for getting opportunities to show off your stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Contests and that sort of thing, and exhibitions. What is it, like gallery? There's a word for it. Not That's not a contest or a competition, but
Exhibition is a good word. That seems like
okay. Yeah, there's another word that I'm thinking of, but not coming to me.
Yep.
But yeah. And then, but yeah, and that's in those classes you can meet people that are also in your same situation that are doing the exact same thing.
Well, yeah, you find like-minded people, and I think oftentimes, we go to work and we mix with the people we work with, but oftentimes they don't have common interests with you.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're, that's art can be a great avenue for meeting other people that share your interests,
Right.
and they appreciate your efforts as well. I think oftentimes, I think we talked about the role of friends and family, and that it's probably not fair to lean on them to support you,
Right.
give you moral support for what you're doing. I mean, not to say that they should. I mean, they should accept that you're into it, but it doesn't mean that they're going to like it. And it's probably unfair to expect your friends and family to like your work,
Right.
you know,
I mean,
but or even appreciate how important it is that you're doing the art.
they may not be your audience. That's
Yeah.
very true.
And
so
they may not be your peers or colleagues.
exactly.
But if you go to a
In that
class,
same sense, though, also don't take their criticism to have more weight than it should because of that too.
yeah, well, actually, that would be an excellent topic for a show. And we should touch on that. Actually, critiquing your community is going to help you in a lot of ways, and one of those is giving you, depending on the community that you have, giving you feedback. But we should that's the next. Okay, after community, let's talk about feedback. But I mean, one thing about the community is that's a place to get your peers and people that appreciate you that way. Sometimes you can get a more receptive audience that way too. But it's mostly just the people that are your peers, I think, and friends and that sort of thing. But you can find collaborators that way too. So
that's a future conversation there.
That's another question. That's part of an element of the creative lifestyle is collaboration.
Right. Well, then that comes from community, from friendships.
It does. I mean, it's certainly one way to build community, because community is really important at every level. So if you're a hobbyist, it's great to have it, because there's a certain level of validation behind having a community as a hobbyist.
Also, people that can help you when, I know that, and this just comes from, this is not a community I'm part of, but like the knit and crochet groups, and then there's a sale on this yarn over here.
Oh yeah.
That sort of information, those sorts of things, you can get bundles here, or you can get this really cool yarn. I just hear these things because I know people.
It's a great way to keep your ear to the ground. It's like you get all the secret info and the gossip and all that stuff. So
all the insider information.
There you go. That's the right thing.
But then I was going to say that another thing is space.
Oh yeah.
Like the place, you need a place to do, for most, I should say.
Time and space, you're right. Time is, but if you're writing, it's like it really doesn't.
If you're writing, if you're writing and you have materials, but I feel that I don't know that there are many writers that get by without having some place that's a little quiet or a little set apart or a little bit away to do that writing. Maybe it's at their kitchen table, but it's at their kitchen table at night whenever nobody else is
around. Yeah.
So that's
time and space are closely aligned there.
Right.
But you're right. It's like if you're a dancer, you got to be someplace you're not going to kick people.
Yeah.
Or kick tables or furniture or something.
Right.
If you're a sculptor, well, and this is where you get into tools as well, because like if you're a sculptor or even a pottery person, you need not just the tools, but you need the space to do it. Because that's like a pottery wheel is pretty big. For music, you need a space where you're not going to annoy your neighbors too much, right?
Yeah, that's the actually with the. I guess my brother-in-law, they had a house and they had, kind of, it seemed like they had like an agreement with their neighbors because they had a full band and they were, in the basement, and it was like during these times was cool, during those times was not, kind of thing. So,
yeah. So, that's stuff you got to work out, and it all, again, it depends on your, this is where if you have your own house,
yeah,
you can maybe put it in the basement or something. Yeah. You maybe have more space.
You have a little bit more leeway than if you're in an apartment building.
Yeah.
It's like I had a drum set in the dorms, and that
it didn't fly. Yeah.
I got complaints from a couple floors down that I was being too loud.
Yeah, I had a great place for a little while where it was an apartment complex, but it was an apartment complex where I only had the neighbor on one wall. I was actually over the garage port or the parking. Whatever you call it. And so there was only cars underneath me. And then on 3 walls, there was nobody anywhere. And so I had one room that I could have completely set aside for music that nobody was.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's hard to find for, if you got a noisy art form, it can be tough.
Yeah.
But all art forms are tough to some degree. You really, but space is one of those elements. but we don't have to. We can talk more in depth at another time on that. What
But
was the?
but that's just making sure that that's another element of a place that a thing that you're going to need. You know, so,
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's see. What was one of the topics we touched on? Well, are there any other? Let's see.
So I mean, we touched on the number. Like we touched on time, your tools, training, space, community. I mean,
okay. We talked a little bit about collaboration. We talked a little bit about feedback. That's part of community. That I guess falls under community.
Yeah.
We've been looking at this from the perspective of a hobbyist so far, but a lot of these things are true for beyond that.
Been talking from hobbyist to moving from hobbyist to professional.
We are.
And because like once you're a professional, I mean, what are you adding in there? You're looking at. I mean, you've got
promotion.
Yeah, I was going to say you've got to build time for promotion versus time for working on your actual art. So
well, but I'm just saying that the element of there's time involved with all those things, but I mean just the element of promotion is something that you don't really worry about so much as a hobby. Finished product is actually more important as a professional.
Yeah.
And there's also the process of promotion is. I mean, this is related to promotion, but just finding, just coordinating avenues to get your stuff out there. So, I mean, promotion could be just putting out an ad someplace or posting on social media. But if you need to set up a show, that's a little bit of a different beast. So, in the music world, we call it booking, but there's other terms you'd probably use in different types of art. Setting up an exhibition, like you were saying, or setting up a show, getting a gallery, or if you're trying to get published, trying to get a publishing, published in.
For that, you do have book events, you have book signings, you have.
That's true.
You go to conventions, you got a network.
Yeah.
So that's a whole other thing.
Well, networking is part of community, but it's true. Networking is a little more focused on the business side of things. There's also, I guess, tastemakers when you're talking about like getting published, or you're trying to get something produced or released. This is sometimes some art forms, depending on what you're shooting for. I mean, you can always kind of release stuff on social media, right?
Yes.
But there's a whole other realm of kind of the professional infrastructure out there that you may have to pursue. You may audition for a movie or a play that's being professionally produced. And that's different than putting on your own play. And you may be submitting your short stories or your novel to a publisher to get, that's different than a vanity publisher, right? That's different than publishing that on your website.
Right.
Same with music. You may want to get a label, but as we were saying earlier, a lot of this stuff, you don't need to do that. You really can make your own films. You can put on your own plays. You can produce your own albums but there's still some advantages to doing it the old system.
Traditional.
Yeah.
Would you call it traditional? I still call it traditional.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's been traditional for the last 50 years. Yeah. So
I was watching King Kong last night, the Peter Jackson one with Jack Black. And
I love that. I love that one.
I only was watching the beginning part where he gets, I forget the woman's name. Is it Naomi Watts?
Yeah.
But he gets her, to come on, and he gets the writer on. It's like once everybody's on the boat and the boat's leaving. And it's just like, he has no money. And it's just, I'm sorry.
My favorite scene is the insect, they go into the little crevice. They try to run away from the dinosaurs and they go into this little cove where there's a whole bunch of insects that are bigger than them that just suck their heads off and stuff. I thought it was great.
I didn't go that far.
You stopped watching it. Okay.
I was just watching the beginning and then,
This is not a movie review show.
I know, but it was just, something that we just said. Now it's out of my head, but something you just said sparked that whole
What's
like
the moral of that
getting it
story?
because like he steals his movie, he runs to the boat, the guys are coming with the cops. He's got the writer there who's giving him 15 pages, but he needs a whole. He's like, I need a whole thing. He just got this girl to come on the boat as his main actress because the other actress stepped down.
Well,
Like that whole scenario.
this does lead to another element here, and this is your supporting crew, your creative team, your creative team. That's probably the best way to put it, because a lot of art forms are inherently collaborative.
Yes,
If
that's
you
all.
want to put together a film, I mean, there's some documentaries you could do on your own.
Right. Yeah.
But if you want to put together a narrative film,
Mhm.
or a play or something like that, you need actors.
Right.
You need art direction. You need cinematography. A lot of that stuff you can do on your own, but that's just anyway. The point is, this is something you want to consider. I've got a band, and I've got somebody who helps it with some mixing and mastering on some stuff too. I've got a team, and that's something you want to consider for depending on the art form.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you can't. I mean, you can do it all alone, but very often you don't want to do it all alone. You want that community so that you can build a thing. Because all TV. I feel like all TV, all film is a collaboration. That's all of it.
Yeah.
You can do a one-man show, but that's not the same. That's just not the same beast, as as King Kong.
5 years from now, AI may be able to fill all those gaps.
That's a good point too. That may be your team is AI. Oh my goodness!
But please, I would encourage you to embrace collaboration. Let's come back to collaboration, and I think we're going to talk more about collaboration in a different episode.
Yeah.
But there's one of the truth is that one of the great joys of art can be the social aspect of it. So, I mean, I know a lot of artists are not very sociable, but there are rich rewards to that kind of thing.
Yeah, you grow more from collaborating with people.
Yeah.
Like all of your work tends to benefit from collaboration, I find.
But we're going to talk more about that in the future.
Yeah, that's a whole.
Let's talk about audience, because we talked about community, which could be your audience, but I think an audience is often a separate thing. But that is an element of being of art, living the artistic lifestyle.
Yes, in the sense that you'll need it. I mean, you don't need an audience.
A lot of things you don't need, but they're elements you want to
tend to be aiming for an audience.
Yeah. Most people want to have some audience, even if it's just limited.
Right. And I mean, and there's a level of feedback that comes from that, and growth as well in your art. If you want to keep making better things, you get lots of feedback. I mean, and that's comes from an audience. If it's your audience cheering you on, then you're going in the right direction.
Unless they're a bunch of sycophants, in which case,
True, but
because that's think about.
They may not be critical.
Because I think about the. You know what? We can go into that more in detail. This is there's topics there. So, what do you think about authenticity? This is one of those elements, or I don't think that's not the term that I want to use, but just sort of like your personal relationship with your own art.
Well, like a level of passion and dedication and direct involvement. I mean, if you're a person who's I don't know if they've outlawed found a way around this yet, but making AI books, writing books with AI, it's you're not writing books. You're coming up with ideas and letting it, and you're playing with AI. I don't know what you call that exactly.
Well,
you may be creative in that,
like a publisher and editor, because that's what editors are like. If you're, oftentimes you come up with the idea for an article, but you hire somebody to write it, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what would be the name of that person? Is that an editor, a publisher? Who are you?
I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
If you're in movies, that would be the role of the producer. The producer would say, and the producer does get some credit, but they hire other people to do all the dirty work. And I think most of us give credit to the creatives rather than the producer.
Well, depending on the producer. I
It's
think.
true. A lot of producers are really creatively involved.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So
I mean, yeah, AI is tricky. AI, well, God, let's just talk about the relationship of technology. That's an element of creativity that we're, what counts as creativity? What is creativity? What is art? We haven't asked that question yet. What is art? What is creativity? I think that's rife with a lot of controversy there.
yeah, that is. Oh, yeah, that's a. I'll that up for another discussion.
Oh God, yeah. All these things are supposed to be other discussions. And if any of you listening to this, which are very few people at this point, but if you are and you have any elements that we haven't touched on, let us know. And we want to have episodes on all of these things. We want to talk more in depth about all of them. Is there anything that we missed, Terrence?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good look at a large scale like landscape of what are elements that you're looking at. You've got yeah. I don't know. I'm just stuck now on the what is art,
Well,
and
maybe that needs
because
to be
the
our next.
technology aspect of it is like because there is I'm not
Well,
going.
we're not going to talk about it now, but that maybe that should be next
Yeah,
week's
yeah, I think
topic.
so. I think that should be
Because
our
that's a big one, and it's
yeah.
a basic one, a fundamental one. So maybe that's okay.
Ooh,
Well,
fundamentals of creativity. I don't know. Like fundamental. That could
come
have
on,
been
this was the elements of creativity. You don't think this is the same as
no,
fundamental?
but we could have been fundamentals of
We're going to be creative fundamentalists. Okay.
what are the fundamental aspect? Break it really down.
Oh, I guess a couple other elements are gatekeeping. Uh,
In what way?
well, just that people like to. This comes to like what is being creative and what is art. There are
Oh,
people that'll try to tell you that you can't make art unless you do it this way or that way, or it doesn't count. So
okay.
that maybe like naysayers or something. I don't critics. Maybe critics. That may be the element that I'm thinking of. That's similar to audience and it's similar to community, but it's different.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is we got some elements to work with. We're gonna have more shows
We will.
and they're gonna be on, we're gonna hyper focus on some of those type of topics. And
Mhm. But for now, I think we can wrap this up.
okay, what's our catchphrase? It's
Poke your
now
pinata
it's
and see what. Now it's time to.
now it's time for you to poke your own pinata. Fuck. Now it's time for you to poke your own pinata and see what shakes out.
Beat it.
Get lost.
No, beat it. Pinata. Beat it.
Yeah, but get lost because it's a lost pinata.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cue the outro, Terrence.